Okay, next speaker is from Barcelona. He's an illustrator that now he lives in Malmo. That is strange for a person from Barcelona, but he is Magoz. So please join me on the stage.
Could I have some?
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all of you for coming. It was very easy for me to define myself in the past years. It was easy for me to define myself in these last years, but since then I started doing a lot of different things, and today I want to share this vision and the things I do nowadays. I'm an illustrator because it allows me to have a personal vision. I'm an illustrator because I believe in the communication part of the images, and allows me as well to constantly questioning myself, my work, my life, and it's a process that I think every creative does, right? Always asking ourselves the same questions. But today I want to give you some insights of what I do. And an important thing of my work are the ideas. These are very basics of my work. And I work with ideas because I can alter reality. I can create many realities that I want. I can break perspective. I can just do whatever I want, basically. And my work also tackles the unexpected, which means that I can create surprises. I started doing illustrations where you have to put all these surprises in a single image. But recently I started doing animations as well, which those surprises are more powerful. And this has sound. Because at the end it's about connecting ideas and meanings, things that we associate graphically with something, and experiences that we experiment and we see and we talk and are part of our lives. And my work is to connect those two things together to create images with that vision. And it's always about ideas, but specifically about concepts and topics. Because what I do always starts from topics. It doesn't matter if it's a newspaper, a magazine, an agency, a personal project. There is always a topic. And sometimes those topics are sensitive, like this, which is about sexism. Or sometimes are complex. This one is for the New York Times about Greece and how it's aging and the population is getting old. But sometimes are fun topics. These are actually for La Repubblica about how to have a fit penis. So sometimes, but again, it's sensitive, so you need to always to play with those things. And of course, as always, we have to deal with boring topics. And my job is to make those boring topics as something interesting. This is about corruption. But in any case, what I try to do is to make the best or the most of each topic. And it doesn't matter which client is for, which topic it is for, I try to do my best and trigger all these things that I was saying. But, you know, sometimes we fail, and fail is part of this process. And embracing this failure is very important as well in our profession. Another thing that is very important in my work is minimalism. And the graphic way that I chose for my work is minimalistic because it allows me to kind of like go straight to the point, remove all the distractions, and for that I use the minimum elements possible. And sometimes it means that I go through each element in the image and I say, does this element have a purpose? And if it doesn't, I just say goodbye. And sometimes I end up with very, very simple images that a really small tweak makes the trick. Minimalism as well sometimes hides a complexity. This one is a sequence for an animation where just a kid goes upstairs, and this sequence took us 2 weeks to create, when just this scene like 5 seconds. This project it was for a charity in the UK about kids that have their parents in prison, and this is the animation.
The future isn't great for boys with their dad in prison. In fact, more than half of us will also end up behind bars. But with the support of St. Giles Trust, prisoners' families can break this cycle, freeing kids from a life of crime and misery. Help boys like me see a future without bars. Please give today at stgilestrust.org.uk.
So yeah, sometimes minimalism has different forms, and in this case it's also a lifestyle for me. I've been traveling for 4 to 5 years as a nomad, as a part of imposing myself my own work, just applying my work into my own life, so treating my life as a project as well. I'm going to talk about this a bit later, but yeah, minimalism is part of my life. So those two things, which are what creates or what defines my work, allows me to be very flexible. And by flexibility, what I mean is that I can work for several medias. For example, this one is for the New York Times about violence against women. This one is a cover for El Quijote. This one is a poster for a company that is called Verkami, is kind of the Kickstarter of Spain. But sometimes it's also on the website. This is some images that are in WeTransfer. This one as well, I think there are 6. And this means as well new media sometimes. This is a recent project I did for the New York Public Library, which brings books, entire books, inside of Instagram. And this is a really great project because it's kind of like trying to make people read, and social networks are making people read less. So it's kind of stepping into the enemy and and making it interesting. So yeah, new media as well. And with this flexibility, I can even go to do spots for the TV. This is a commercial. Well, no, it's not a commercial. It's a spot for the Catalan government about a change in the time of the days. That they wanted to change a bit how people do stuff and in which time they do.
Per què no tenim temps a la nostra vida? Vendre coses noves, o per descansar com tal. Més temps per créixer amb la cultura, per compartir amb els amics i la família, o per no fer res de res. Els dies només tenen 24 hores per cada hora, i si poguéssim sumar temps dins del temps. Coneix la reforma horària i descobreix la vida que t'espera. Generalitat de Catalunya.
So this is more or less what I do, but when I have talks, I always want to talk about what is behind, because this is an opportunity for me and for you to know what happened or what are behind the scenes. So first I want to talk about the early days, and this starts when I was a teenager and I was painting graffiti. Those are pieces that I painted probably around 8 years ago or something like that. And since when I was a teenager, I was very into graffiti, like traveling, creating more murals, and it was my whole life. It was I was one of them saying graffiti for life and all this. But yeah, it was very interesting. From there I moved to painting murals, which is very logical because usually I had to paint drawings as well. And I started making a living with that, so I could kind of make some money aside and have some, my first jobs were doing murals. But then a bit later, I started to think graffiti is cool, but it's very about the surface, right? I painted outside, sometimes raining, sometimes with a lot of heat. And what I was interested in was the content, what I was painting. I didn't care at the end if it was a wall or if it's a paper. So I discovered illustration and I thought, oh, now I can use computers, I can be comfortably sitting at home and doing the same. Why should I go out and deal with all these things that are not very practical? So I decided, well, maybe I should be an illustrator. But it was a problem, I didn't know how to do it or what is an illustrator. So I went to study a couple of years in a very tiny school outside of Barcelona. But there I learned basically how to paint with watercolors and other techniques that I don't really use. And when I finished after 2 years, I didn't much about illustration or how to be a professional illustrator. So with a couple of friends, we decided to find a solution for that. And noticed that we were living at our parents' homes, we didn't have money, the only thing we had was time. So we decided, okay, what if we create a personal project that allows us to find those answers that we were having questions. And then we created a magazine, an online magazine. This was the time when social networks weren't really a thing, or not yet. And we distribute these in PDF by email. And this magazine was designed specifically to answer those questions. It allows us to publish illustration and produce illustrations every month. Then we interviewed our favorite artists and people that we truly admire, asking those questions that we had, but in a way of being an interview. Then we featured people that we really liked about illustration from around the world. And yeah, we used basically this magazine to answer all these questions we had. And later on we also did some research about articles. This is, for example, about the sketch and how important it is for the artist. And some other sections like how to do a composition, how to use color. So all these, we were doing that every month, then every 2 months. And we were super passionate about it. And if you haven't noticed, if you check up there, we created a flipbook in the PDF. This is how attention we put to the detail, that we really wanted this to be an incredible product. But no one noticed that. It's a great thing to have now, and after years to say, hey, by the way, did you see that? No one did. So yeah, after this time trying to find all these answers, I think I was ready, and we felt, all three of us, Miguel Porlat, Miguel Montaner, and myself, were the ones doing the magazines. We kind of felt ready for, maybe it's time to start contacting clients. We know how more or less this works. Let's do it. And individually, we started contacting clients and trying to find a job. So the first week that I contacted, 30, 40 people every day for a couple of weeks. So in those days, I got an answer, several answers actually, from agencies, from clients saying, yes, sure, we have something for you. And since then, I've been busy. That was more or less how how I put my feet inside of the illustration world. So yeah, that was the result. I was finally a full-time self-employed illustrator. So what I learned from this stage, from this first part, the early days, is that even though limitations seem like a bad thing that we have, they are an opportunity. I use that constantly. I limit the color I use, I limit the amount of elements I put there. And back then, those days, I had limitations. I didn't have money, I didn't have a computer, a big computer, I didn't have contacts, I had nothing but time. And I used that time to create the opportunity of being extremely passionate about something, not wanting anything in return, just learning. No one can afford putting all those hours that we put. If you have to pay your rent, if you have to do all these things. So it was an opportunity actually. And the other thing that I learned from that time is that actually I followed my path. Like, I could have said after this school, okay, this school didn't work, let's go to another, or let's do a master, or let's do whatever. But we had a vision, and we said, well, let's try it, let's go that way. And yeah, nowadays is sometimes it's difficult because society have all the paths and that you must follow and all this. So yeah, following your own path sometimes produces the best way. Yeah, it's wide, you can't see, but was saying that building a team around you or collaborating with people that are alike is so important, because it's not that you go faster, you go through in the scale of 3, magnitude of 3 faster. It's 3 times 3 times 3, how fast you can go. Because if 3 people do research on one topic and they share knowledge and they evaluate themselves, you're going to be super fast. And this is what happens to us. That in 1-2 years, we went from knowing nothing to have a decent idea of how it works. So now, with these early days, what I did, it was fixing my professional situation. Suddenly I had a job, and it was great clients, working for the New York Times and Scientific American, and it was really great. But personally, I wasn't in the same level. I was still living at my parents. I wasn't really happy with everything around, and then I took the same approach. We have a problem here. We feel stuck. What are we going to do about it? And obviously, you must do something. If you feel bad, you must do something to change that. So I definitely needed a personal change. And I went to the extreme a bit, but that's what I did. I just decided to leave everything I had, except for my ability to create illustrations. I sold my car, I just said bye to my friends, my family, and I decided to go somewhere where I could challenge, I could find those answers by myself, again with my own path. And I decided to go to England. I never been in England before that time, and I had really no other reason than learning English or improving my English and face challenges. So what I did was, start something new that was going to obligate myself to survive. And when you don't have any other solution for that, you're going to get something, you're going to learn something. And in this experience was great. In Bristol, I had to face challenges every day. I had, from the most simple thing, like becoming self-employed, or going to buy bread, or finding new friends, finding a rent, all this, until something even more existential, like what I'm doing here, how long I'm going to be here. And then I discovered that what I really liked about this was the challenge itself. And this challenge for going to new cultures, to meet new people, to talk about things that you never thought before, it was so exciting. So I said, why should I stay in Bristol? Why don't I keep doing this? and I decided to start traveling the world. I packed everything I had in a backpack and I started moving around. I think at this point is when I really truly became nomad, because I didn't have a place to go back anymore. Well, I had my parents' house, but I didn't want to go there. I just wanted to keep going. And yeah, from that time I worked in many places: airport, beach, cafes, bars, hotels, guest houses, everywhere where most of the, not most of them, but 80% of the images that you have seen or you are going to see today, they were created in places like those. And yeah, after Bristol I went to Asia. I was there 9 months, then I went back to Europe, then I went to Japan, I went to east of Europe, I spent time in Finland, and yeah, another great thing of this change and this being brave and challenge myself was meeting my girlfriend, who is Finnish, and we met in England. So one of those great things, yeah, happened. I forced those things to happen because I didn't have any other option. So what I learned from this is that if you don't like something, it's up to you to change it. And sometimes solutions might seem dramatic, but they are not. That's what allows us to do things. And fear is dangerous. Fear is our enemy sometimes. It preserves or it prevents us to do things that we should be doing, but we are scared to do. So sometimes fear is good, but it can also be dangerous. And great things, at least in my case, in my life, only happened. The best things happened when I was brave and I was saying, I'm going to do this crazy thing, I don't care really, I'm going to try it. Then is when the magic happens. So yeah, that's the fear and being brave and finding those things outside is very, very important. So we are more or less now in that time when I was more or less established professionally, personally, and this didn't happen after the nomadic adventure. This happened at the same time of the nomadic adventure. I decided I wanted to create a new website. I like programming and building stuff. So I decided to do this joke as the early days in the magazines that no one saw this flip book. So this time I wanted to be a bit more specific and more visible. So I created these animations with a friend who is a graphic designer, not really an animator, but I kind of commissioned him to do that when you go to my website. And you can do, it's still there. So it's just a funny thing, but then I thought, okay, if we could do that as a joke, can we do that for real? Can I eventually be able to do animations? And I had the same problem again. I wanted to develop animations, but I didn't know how. And this was the same problem again. So at that time of working for clients and everything, I had regularly some assignments that include doing animations, and those animations always were made by external studios or the agencies themselves, and I accepted some of those jobs and mostly ended up me being disappointed because I'm a person that I have things very clear and I want something, and I'm very perfectionist sometimes, even if sometimes it's too much, and everything was a bit like until I had this job. And this job was a cover for a magazine in Spain about graphic design, about internships. So I did the two first things. So I knew what I wanted, and I said, at that time I was very scared of the outcome of any animation working with my work. So I did a very I want this, but smooth and with these kind of movements. And then I received that one. I received this one. and I was impressed. I was really amazing. It was amazing because this person completely understood me. Was the first one knowing what I wanted. And this guy is José Lorenzo. He's an animator from Barcelona, and since then we've been working together. So now that the first component started there, it's like, okay, I found a person I can work with, but how can we go from sometimes working to making a big part of my work, right? So what I did is go back to the same thing, create a personal project and make it happen. Let's experiment. So I decided to start doing weekly animations with him, and we created things like this. And at this point I was starting to realize that sound and music was a very important thing. And luckily for me, my girlfriend is a musician, so I saw the opportunity there to also build a team of those three of us as a team, right? Me doing the illustration, the direction, the ideas, the vision, and then creating the animation part and the music under my direction. And we keep doing this for a while. Oh, the color is too white, but so yeah, we created these images for personal projects basically, but suddenly they started to bring me assignments, start to transforming my work somehow. And with this personal project, what we did was experiment as well, building things in 3D, improving our workflow. Somehow we were suddenly a team, and we had like a studio over the internet because we work from wherever I am, and he's in Barcelona. So the result was a new dimension to my work and a new way of explaining and creating and communicating my ideas on top of what I had before. So again, creating personal projects is the best way I know to make things happen. And it's free. It only takes your time and commitment. And also again, teaming up with people. If you can't do it yourself, consider others, because that's a great way to go. And the last part of this learning, of this expansion, it was that even it looks sometimes that you can't do more, you can't go farther, there's always something else to do. There's always a part that you can explore and you can go faster. And quickly, because, well, I have a few minutes, but this is the last part that is very important for me. Maybe it's not as seen as my work, but it's really important. And the thing is that the magazine's time was great because it wasn't only for ourselves what we did. That was public. All this knowledge, all this research was publicly available. But since I stopped doing the magazine, I didn't have that anymore. So I had the need of create kind of a window where people could access to all these things that I've been learning. So I had this idea of, well, I would like to create a window somehow where I can share and I help others, and the knowledge that I accumulate don't stay at my desk just getting dust. It can be consumed for others. So I decided why I don't create a new channel somehow that I can do that. And then I created my blog, and this is a part that I'm very, very happy that I did, because I started putting not only the news about my work, but all these articles and all these tools and all these things that I do myself, they are now publicly available. And there are things like how I use Illustrator, but there are also things about what is my accounting system, or how I find ideas, or how chess helps me. It's just, as I said, a window to all my. When you have more than 50 or 70 articles, it's difficult to access them. It's difficult to find what you're looking for. Of course, I have a search function, but you know, if you go new to a new blog or something, you're not going to go through all of them, or maybe, but it's very tedious. So I decided to create this, which I call the Toolkit, and put inside, in a very digestive way, the best things I think, I consider I did on this blog. And since then it has been downloaded, I think more than 15,000 people, and it's free, it's in my website. But this is the last part of this learning, and this is something I created just 4 or 5 months ago. The toolkit was great, but also it's not ideal. It doesn't live on the website. You can't access that. You have to download it. It's not the ideal. You can't go do that on mobile. So I created this website. It's called illustration.tools. And right now it's just a bunch of tools about different topics, interesting for illustrators. There are articles as well. And it's so easy to find whatever you want. You just filter it and you have it. And we also have a community there inside. And I'm creating an online course that try also to add value to this sharing knowledge. So yeah, finally, this is a tool that I built last month. I created an algorithm that allows you to find the pricing for your work, and this is something I use for myself, but I decided, well, again, if I use it and if it works well for me, why not make it public? So it's not ready yet. It works, but it's not publicly available yet, but it will be very soon. So again, now I'm happy because the original problem of why others can't access my knowledge or the research, now everyone can. And now for ending the talk, just three or four slides. There's this thing in the internet that it's too long, didn't read. So if my talk was too long and you didn't listen, here are my 4 cents. Invest time finding yourself and finding whatever you want to do, and not only in your work but in life, because sometimes we want immediate things, we want to jump over and we forget why we do things. So very important thing. And also be brave and think out of the box and do things in your way. Don't let anyone tell you how you should do things, because the best way of learning is learning through experience. And theory is theory. It can work theoretically, but not practically. The best way to do things is trying. Because at the end, and again, I said that before, sometimes we are not aware that we have the power to create our future, and when we don't like something, we can change it, and if we want to improve something, we can do it. And if you're kind enough on your journey, I would love if you could share it with others, because then we all learn from each other. That's how humans evolved. And thank you very much.